Hi, everyone. My name is Manzanita Ayers, and my research proposal is on intergenerational trauma and relationship dynamics among Black couples, assessing the efficacy of targeted interventions. Intergenerational trauma deeply affects relationships, but existing research, from what I have found, often overlooks its impact on Black couples. Most studies that I have come across focus on individuals, leaving relational dynamics and cultural context underexplored. This study addresses this gap by examining how inherited trauma shapes communication and emotional bonds in Black partnerships. It also evaluates culturally tailored interventions, offering practical solutions to promote healing and strengthen relationships. My research question is: how does intergenerational trauma influence the relationship dynamics of Black couples? And to what extent can targeted interventions mitigate its effects on emotional distress, mistrust, and communication barriers? My hypothesis is intergenerational trauma experienced by Black Americans has negatively impacted the relationship dynamics of Black couples, excuse me, by perpetuating cycles of emotional distress, mistrust, and communication barriers, which can be moderated through targeted interventions. One of the sources that I looked at, the first one, in fact, that led me to this research question was Post Traumatic Slave Syndrome: America's Legacy of Enduring Injury and Healing, written by Dr. Joy DeGroy. So, what she has coined is post traumatic slave syndrome, and its acronym is PTSS. And what this is saying is that the trauma that slavery has caused has a continual effect on African Americans across generations. Dr. DeGroy, excuse me, argues that unresolved trauma from slavery, compounded by ongoing systemic racism, manifests in maladaptive behaviors such as internalized racism, low self esteem, and destructive relationships. It was her book that set me on this path and that sparked that question. Another person whom I looked to, another source that I found, was Elaine Penderhughes. And her article was titled African American Marriage in the 20th Century. Penderhughes traces the history of African American marriage from the legacy of slavery to the present day. She highlights how those experiences have shaped relational dynamics within the community. And so, upon looking at that, I knew that that would be something that could not only support my hypothesis, but would give me greater insight into the question at hand. Intergenerational trauma has negatively impacted African American marriages. There's no question about that. However, I believe there is potential for positive change through targeted interventions and community based support systems. So, when thinking about this, a few approaches that I thought of when it came to coaching is that the interventions that were provided had to be targeted, and they had to be designed to address the unique challenges and experiences of Black couples. Um, that can be facilitated through peer support groups, and a few that I have come across dealt with conflict resolution, maybe teaching stress management, um, maybe looking into emotional intelligence and communication training, right? Along with workshops or faith based relationship programs. I believe um, targeted coaching interventions such as these can make an impact. I also believe that resilience theory and trauma informed principles need to be incorporated into the practice. Black couples can be guided in understanding and overcoming the effects of intergenerational trauma. Through culturally sensitive coaching and support systems, clients can be inspired to build stronger and healthier relationships while fostering personal and relational resilience. Um, so the methods that I thought of would be a mixed method approach, meaning I would like to combine qualitative as well as quantitative data. I believe that the voice of a people holds so much value and so much weight when you're looking at a question such as this. So ideally, I would love to have 50 black couples ranging in age from 20 to 60. That way you target multiple generations. And I would love to recruit them through community networks, meaning if my focus is biblical or faith based, I can recruit via churches. I can recruit via social media, right? I can also, another thing that I thought of was networking within um, the community that I currently have, my friends, and looking at, okay, which of you would like to participate in something like this? So it would be community based as far as reaching out and recruiting, faith based, going to different churches, as well as recruiting via social media. Okay. Some of the variables that I thought of would be um, intergenerational trauma as the independent variable, relationship dynamics as the dependent variable, and then the interventions being the moderator. As far as data collection goes, for quantitative, I thought of having surveys, maybe a generational trauma scale, maybe couples communication scale. And then for qualitative, in depth interviews and focus groups to capture lived experiences. So that's where the connection comes in. Um, when I say tapping into my own community or my network, setting aside that time to have those conversations and to ask those questions that you don't typically get answers for. And that was a hurdle that I found when researching this. I found that the data pool was so small that it was hard to really tap into and dig into the hypothesis or the research question that I formulated. Um, and then for that, looking at a baseline assessment. So those who participate, wanting to see where they are at the beginning, have 3 months worth of intervention. I feel like 90 days is sufficient to see if what we are implementing is actually working. And then also having a post intervention evaluation. And this is where you would get the reflection. I feel like, again, the voice of the people rings loud. So just wanting to see if after everything was set in place and after you've tried what you can try, did you personally see an improvement? And did you see that this could benefit your relationship? So this would be the type of results that I would hope to have as far as quantitative goes. Couples with interventions, my hope is that they would show 30% improvement in trust and communication compared to the control group. So I feel like 30% is an ideal improvement. Would I like to see more? Definitely. But this is something that I would think if you look at a before and an after, I feel like there should be some type of growth. And so my hope would be 30% there. Um, as far as qualitative insights go, like I said, I do plan to give out a survey. So these are just some themes that I felt like would come through: community as a lifeline, healing through communication, and then breaking cycles. So the goal with this is to identify that that intergenerational trauma has created a cycle that needs to be broken, and even bringing that to light. Some people don't realize that you can inherit trauma, and then that trauma can then inform how you move and how you talk and how you walk and how you deal with conflict and how you see conflict, how you get to the resolution. So breaking cycles is something that I would hope would come out of that. Community as a lifeline, because as I said, having peer support groups, no matter the topic, whether it's emotional intelligence or conflict resolution, or even if it's faith based, having community around you is vital. And I feel like the only way that you grow is if you're connected to others, because it's in that you get accountability. It's also where you get those hard truths. And then, like I said, healing through communication. So oftentimes the problem is that we don't know how to speak to one another. We're doing a lot of talking, but no one is doing listening, right? There's no active listening going on. So something that I would hope to hear, I threw in a quote, for the first time, we could talk about the pain we've been carrying for generations. All right. So as far as future research goes, when I think of this topic, I think it's vital. I think it's essential to explore the long term impacts of trauma informed interventions on younger generations. If we can catch things early, then we're not passing down um, trauma based responses, right? So, looking at the long term impacts of that is important. Investigating the role of faith based and cultural organizations in healing trauma. There are so many people where their faith holds them up, right? They are faith based, they got this thing going, but oftentimes it's the cultural aspect that is overlooked or that is separated. I believe in bringing the two together, as well as expanding research to include diverse Black experiences across socioeconomic and geographic contexts. So, this also plays into it. You can have someone who's from a lower socioeconomic status, and most of their family maybe have lived in poverty, and that is something that they saw generationally, so their experience, right, is going to be a little different than someone who say grew up middle class, or in that top tier, right, that top tier percent, where they didn't have to worry about finances, where they went to private schooling, or everyone in their family maybe had degrees or were professionals, or they come from some wealth or some money. Their experience is going to be different, but I also think it's valid to explore, because as a community, as a whole, we all experienced slavery as a trauma. So I would love to hear those voices across the board. I think that is just key, as well as geographic. When you think about those that were raised in the South, and those that were raised in the West, and those that are raised in the Midwest, and those that are raised in the North, I think all of that will expand and add to the research. So, in closing, interventions effectively reduce emotional distress. That's true in every scenario, right? As an educator, I know this to be true in my classroom. This is also true in relationships. Interventions also enhance relational patterns by addressing trauma's root causes. Intergenerational trauma profoundly affects Black couples' relationships, but I believe that targeted interventions offer significant potential for healing. As a community, we need to invest in culturally responsive coaching and community based support systems to foster an environment of resilience and relational health. Overall, what I would love to leave you with is that my goal is to see healthy, happy, strong, stable, secure Black relationships, Black couples who not only love, Black love, but also understand that there's a lot of healing that has to go with this. So, I don't know. I'm just excited about this healing, and I'm excited to see what can be and what could be. And my hope is that I spark someone's interest to do a little more digging into this, as I myself plan to do more digging and more research into this. Professionally, my goal is to become a relationship coach. And this is some of the stuff I'm going to be targeting. My goal is to help my community, but I want to know the best way to help my community. I want to know the best targeted interventions, and my goal is action. I want to know, what is it going to take to get us to the next step. It's about action, it's about growth, it's about healing, and it's about being made whole at the end of the day. All right. So I thank you so much for being a part of this presentation. I appreciate your time and I appreciate your ear. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.